Okay.
I just want to follow up one thing with Bill. I'm a licensed electrician on Long Island, all right? I know Kyle.
Can I interrupt you? Can we forego for me just a minute and defer that? Because some of these structural people have to leave. I'd rather defer to structural people first and then come back to you if you don't mind.
Is your structural?
Yeah. Where?
He says it's not structural.
Okay. Anybody with
electrical?
structural?
What is it?
What is it?
Chemical. Okay, we can take it. What's your question?
New polymers that soak through water, technology, I've never touched them, like sitting in the fridge.
Assuming that your circulation system is working appropriately to get those distributed, then certainly you could do that. You could go ahead and begin to treat the water not only with oxidizers, but with any number of ancillary products, clarifiers, enzymes, what have you. But obviously the key is being sure that you can get those distributed throughout the water, but it certainly wouldn't hurt.
Any other questions from the audience? Structural? What?
Okay. Go back to the electrical then.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Some of these people up here have to leave earlier than I do. So whatever the question, what was the question back there?
What's your question?
It's not a question. It's just something to inform people. What I would do, what I'm doing is I've done quite a few of these renovations already. Okay, one, have an electrical inspection done on the pool after the wiring is redone. Okay, a lot of these jobs, what we've been doing is we extracted the water from the home run pipes, get the water out of them because there is salt water in them. There's contaminants from sewerage, especially along western parts of the South Shore. Okay, another thing is that most of the pools on Long Island, they don't really have NMB or NM type wiring in them because they're all either THHWN or other wiring that is for wet locations. All right, that's been like that for years. Okay, so on Long Island, I don't think we're going to see that much, but there are some that are done with UF cable, and you got problems with the grounding because it's uninsulated. Okay, everything really has to be gone over from top to bottom. All the jobs that we've done, we've basically taken everything out from the ground up. Panels have come out, breakers, everything. Also, don't forget to let your customers know too about docks, cabanas. We've had a couple of fires already in cabanas. People have tried energizing them. For about 2 weeks, they've had fires. So make sure you get electrical inspections. Have them say the last word. This way, if the homeowner down the road 15 years from now goes to sell a house, they have documentation that all this stuff was corrected and it was made safe. Don't try to, skip over it. Don't, just go through it with the homeowner and explain them. It's a safety issue.
Yeah. The other.
Up until now, we've not replaced any home runs at all. Most of them that we've seen, okay, when we extracted the water out of them, we pulled the wire out. Okay, we ran a sponge through the pipe. We cleaned it. Put the home runs back in again, cut off the ends, all the wiring was okay. Okay, we re-energized it, okay, and the wiring so far has been fine, okay, but some of the wiring, older wiring that's maybe 30 years old, that wiring does have to come out because it wasn't suitable to be in any kind of wet location.
Yeah, that's the real guideline on that, is if you've got wiring that, and he's exactly right, it's a very timely answer. If you've got wiring that is in fact suitable for a wet location, then you can do what he says, but also have your electrician measure it, usually at twice or more the rated voltage. So if you got a 120 volt system, you're going to measure it at 250. If you've got a 240 volt system, you're going to measure it at 500, and you may want to do that a couple of times within, say, the first year, just to make sure that there's no insulation deterioration there. The other thing I would point out with regard to the straight electrical wiring is that even if you clip the wires off and replace the connections, because of the fact that that wiring is going to wick salts up into the insulation, you're probably going to want to do some continuity testing on your connections to make sure that they maintain some integrity, and do some visual tests. Look, guys, if the wires start turning green, you got a problem. And that's something that, you know, anybody can see. If you've ever seen corroded copper wire, then, you know, look for that. The other thing I would point out in terms of your replacements is, for Pete's sake, you know, if you're going to put in stuff that might get flooded again, on your connectors, use brass and or stainless steel for your connectors, particularly the screws in the lugs. Don't use conventional cadmium-plated steel or any other plated steel, because you know what's going to happen, and it's going to happen within probably a month after the water hits it. That's not going to be there anymore. I'll open it to some other, if you have any other questions for me. Otherwise, there's one more about bonding I want to get into very quickly, and also about some of your rebar issues that are electrical. Anybody?
Go ahead.
You got two more questions.
Oh.
Is it safe to assume all swimming pool lights are going to be garbage if they've been submerged with salt water?
Not necessarily. If it's just a metallic wet niche, you're probably going to be able to save it. We talked about the connections. If the connections are going, then it's toast. The light fixture itself, as cheap as those light fixtures are now, yeah, you could clean it out and see what it does. But keep in mind that you probably need to tell the owner that they may wind up having to replace it, because, you know, corrosion in those light fixtures can cause issues. Where I would really be very careful is with the screw between the light fixtures. Let's say we're using conventional wet niche fixtures that are metallic. Be very careful about the screw between the light fixture and the niche. There's a, you know, that can go because it's fairly small. If it does, don't go in there with a wallboard screw or something else like a lot of people do. You know, you want to replace the fixture at that point in time. Yeah.
Jen, and then Darren.
Yeah. Where's the next question?
Jen.
That's me.
Jane.
I think my question is for Greg. I just am wondering if we are going to take the extra step to get the testing on the structures of the pools. I can't really pronounce the terminology that you were saying. What is it? Yes. Who would we contact to do something like that?
You usually want to use a lab, if I may, George.
You got it.
There are a lot of good reputable labs nationwide that can do petrographic analysis, and for example, chloride analysis, the two tests that I mentioned. And if you want, after this session, I'll be happy to give you the names of 3 good labs that have national recognition. And those are the ones that you want to send materials to, because they specialize in things like standard optical microscopy, scanning electron microscopy, X-ray diffraction, these different scientific testing methods that will help you to understand whether or not your shotcrete has been damaged, that type of thing.
We're going to take one more question from the audience.
Well, just a follow-up to that.
All right.
Do you have posted on like an MPC website or your website what levels we're looking to have or not have at different depths of concrete?
No, there is a, like I say, 1152 does talk about the chloride residual. And usually your photographer, who is a trained person in geology, mineralogy, that type of thing, he'll be able to assist you, Cal, in telling you, hey, these levels are extraordinary. But also they'll look at the concrete itself and see if there's any indicators of expansive damage, things like that can cause not just damage to any rebar within that material, but also to the materials itself, the shotcrete, gunite, what have you.
Okay, we'll take one last question, and then I will release
just to follow up on the light, I know we've talked about it twice now, but I believe on the lights themselves, it says for fresh water use only. There's a sticker from Hayward, and you're saying it should be okay.
No, I'm not suggesting that it's okay. You can try it if you want. My preference is to, in fact, toss it. But when you think about it, you've got a...
That was different than what you literally just said.
Salt chlorinated pool, you're going to have the light in some level of salt water. I would not use it, but if you're, at the cost of a light, you might as well just replace it.
I concur. I just that's not really what you said.
Yeah, okay.
Before.
If I misspoke, I apologize. The other thing I would point out on rebar that has not been brought out is if, this is something down the line. Hopefully you'll never have to go there, but if down the line you start to suspect rebar loss, there are non-destructive test technologies that can be utilized in order to explore that. Now, they're not cheap, but in some pools it may be worth the cost of doing it. So just be aware that that exists later on, and 5 years down the road, if somebody thinks that their rebar is gone from salt intrusion, even though you may have done all this other stuff, there are ways people can look at it without jackhammering the walls of your pool.
Okay, what I'd like to do, I'd like to wrap it up, but first I want to thank the panel. They came at the last minute. And I especially want to thank the two from Florida, the two guests from Florida. I think it was a big help. Thank you so much, Pete and Keith. And as I said, Bill will probably stay around, but if there's no other questions about chemistry or some of the structure stuff, Bill will stay if you want to talk more about electricity.
Yeah, I want to make one comment about bonding before you guys leave.
Okay.
That was one of our questions up here, and I know that's on everybody's mind. And it gets into the rebar question, primarily for concrete pools.
That's the girlfriend, yeah.
The problem with this kind of an incident with regard to bonding is that if you think about the bonding connections that are typically done in a concrete pool, they're all done with, the vast majority of them at least are done with connectors that require a mechanical force in order to make that connection go, and some of them are not listed for that use. Expect that those connections are likely to deteriorate during the further lifetime of the pool after you get it cleaned, no matter what. My suggestion to you is, as many of you know, the state of New Jersey requires this for commercial pools, but there are bonding integrity tests that are available out there that are well known. If you work in Jersey, you know that. And I would strongly suggest that you utilize those in the upkeep of your pools that are under your care with regard to this, particularly the ones that have been in water, so you may be able to detect that early.
All right. Thanks again, everybody. This is great. Thank you very much.